nervous because I'm here now.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin, and our frequent to the show, our friend of the show, Tony Thornton. Tony, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, listen, great to see you guys. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're really excited. What we're going to do today is we're 8 games in, pretty much midway through the season. So we're going to talk about where we are now as a team, give out some grades and midseason awards, and then projections into the future. But before we do, make sure to take a second to subscribe, hit that like button, leave your comments. If you disagree, agree with our takes, and then go ahead and check out our Patreon as well. If you want to come on the show like Tony or want to participate more and supply us with questions, check out what options you have available to you. And we look forward to interacting with you guys more. But without any further ado, Glenn, I'm going to have you kind of start off with our standings here and let us know where we're at and then give us some stats.
Yeah, so we are second in the AFC North. Ravens sitting at 6-2 overall, 2 games back of the 8-0 Steelers, who are just, man, they're looking good right now. But anyway, just 2 games back of the division, still looking really good in the AFC overall as far as acquiring the one of the wild card positions. Still looking pretty good there. But let me get into some offensive stats, Jimbo.
Yep.
Passing yards per game, the Ravens average 192 per game, which ranks 31st in the league. And then on the flip side, rushing per game, they're first, averaging 170.1. So a little lopsided there on offense. We want to see that maybe get a little closer. But then time of possession per drive. This is what I find interesting. Just time of possession per drive average just 2 minutes and 49 seconds per drive this season. Definitely a notch behind where it was last season. And then turnovers. We've committed 10 turnovers, which ranks 16th in the league. And then here's one thing that's really got to get cleaned up. 51 total team penalties so far this season for a total of 484 yards, with 190 of those yards coming from the offense. That's drive killers. That's drive continuers on the opposite side, and it's something they got to clean up. But Tony, how's the defense looked so far this year?
Well, the defense certainly, that's been the bread and butter of this organization for since the beginning, basically. So, you're talking about passing yards now, giving up only 223 yards passing wise, and that makes sense based on the secondary that this team employs. They're 10th in the league in terms of passing yards given up. Of course, rushing yards, it's always been a big staple with this team. They're 8th in the league, averaging giving up 100, a little bit, almost 102 yards a game there. Time of possession, they're only allowing the opponents only 2.5 minutes per drive, which is 3rd in the league. So they're getting teams in 3rd and 4th down types of situations, which is good. Of course, the turnover ratio, which is pretty high, it's glaring, and it's good because we have some playmakers on defense that really know how to get after the ball. We're 3rd now in the league with 14 forced turnovers there. Of course, the penalties, we talked about 51 total team. A lot of the penalties that we see are kind of, you get them on the defensive side with PIs and things of that nature, but it's still a lot in terms of the amount of penalties that we give up. One of the good things that I did notice is that this past week, the second half, we had 0 penalties, which is good. And opponents, 35 penalties for 280 yards that we've given up. But it's allowed 18 first downs. And that to me is a critical number because those are drive killers. When when it's 3rd down and we pin our ears back and we go after the quarterback and we make a big play, next thing you know, we got a PI or we have a holding or we have a personal foul or unnecessary type of roughness. So those are the things that have been killing us this year, that have been extending drives. And we've seen that in a few games this year. But overall, the defense, it's ranked in terms of the overall. It's really good, but there are some things that they can clean up as well.
Yeah, I think the encouraging part from the offensive and defense side of the ball, definitely a lot of room to grow. I don't think that we've hit our ceiling on either side of the ball, which is great because we've seen good moments from both. But I get to talk about probably the most efficient and best unit on the team, as crazy as that sounds. That's the Wolfpack, man, special teams. So you got JT back there, Sam Cook with a perfect passer rating. But as far as kicking goes, 15 to 16, Justin Tucker's 15 to 16 for field goals, 93%. Of course, point afters, and I hate saying this, but he's 100%. I'll never forget that Saints game where the announcer was talking about him being perfect, and of course he hooks it left or whatever. What was that, 2 years ago now?
Yes, I was there.
Oh man, that was frustrating. And then, of course, one thing that's also a bright note this year is, or a bright spot, is the kickoff return. Not generally in this day and age, not generally a large impact on the game, but we do have 10 returns for 318 yards. A guy like Devin Duvernay already scored a touchdown. Teams are definitely thinking about him when he's got an opportunity to return it. And then, of course, our other rookie, Prochet, has 18 returnable punts for 159 yards and 0 touchdowns. So that's kind of where we're at. Those are our ranks, offensively, defensively, and special teams. But I want to spend the most of this time talking about some grades here. So I'm really excited to get into this. What we're going to do is do offensive, defensive, special teams, and then, offensive, defensive, and coaching. We all have the same grade for special teams. I don't know how you can do anything but an A+. Right. But I want you guys, when you give your points here, make sure you let us know why, because I think there might be some differing grades, and I'm excited to talk about it. So we're going to start with the offense. Glenn, I'm going to start with you. What is your overall grade for the offense so far in this season?
All right. So I first have to preface this by saying I'm grading this offense, and I'm not comparing it to last season's offense. Okay, I'm just grading what I've seen on the field this season, because if we start comparing any offense to what we saw in Baltimore last season, it's really going to be hard to find any that stack up. So I give it this season's offense a B-, and the reason I do is because how can you give them anything less, in my opinion, than a B when they're number 1 in the league in rushing yards? Now I understand they're very bad at passing the ball, on just 31st. But last year, they weren't really that far off of their 192 yards per game last year. It's more so the efficiency that they've lost. They're not quite playing with the same efficiency that they did last season, but certainly still playing at a high level when it comes to rushing the ball. So I got to give them credit when credit's due. And even with the fact that they lost a Hall of Fame offensive lineman, even with the fact that they lost their all-pro left tackle and they had to shuffle guys all around that offensive line, when it's all said and done, when it all shakes out, we just got done playing the number 1 and number 2 rush defense in the league, ran on both of them for over 100 yards, and continue to be number 1 in the league. So I got to give them a B-, despite the fact that, look, there are struggles on the passing game. I'm not going to, sugarcoat that. They've been looking bad at times, but I think a lot of this stuff is correctable. I think a lot of this stuff will be corrected in the second half if they continue to build off of what we saw in the second half of the Colts game, getting the ball out quick, making obviously the run game a priority, using play action. But anyway, I'm not going to look. I could go on for days about this offense, Jimmy, but I'm going to let somebody else take over and give their grade. B- is mine.
All right, Tony, what do you got for us?
Well, certainly I appreciate the preface of saying let's not compare this offense to last year's historic offense. That was certainly an anomaly, and we will never see that again. So I appreciate Glenn saying that, because that is where the fan base is right now, which is the way it is. But certainly my grade is very close. It's a C, because I'm looking at that difference between the rushing offense and the passing offense. There's a huge disparity. Now, I do understand that the rushing game is still very good. We're still, we are still moving the ball, but the efficiency, to Glenn's point, is not there. We're not doing this on a consistent basis. Sometimes we struggle. We saw that in the first half. The blocking scheme, some of the pulling guards, it just wasn't working right. Lamar being indecisive with the RPOs. Those kind of things, they can clean up, but those are the things that really kind of bother me. But we saw in the second half how things changed. The passing game got better as well in the second half. Short passes. We use a lot of the backs in the backfield. I don't like it when Lamar lines up by himself in the backfield, because it's an obvious play. It's either going to be a quarterback sneak, or it's going to be looking for his favorite 2 targets. That's got to get cleaned up. But I say that based on that balance, a C is right now the most appropriate grade. But I will tell you that this run offense is special, and there's no one in the league that can compare. And once we get Mark back into the fold, it's going to even be better. But we don't know if that's going to make a difference, because if you bring Mark back, now you're back to the 3 running back set, which wasn't as successful to start the season. But we'll kind of wait and see. But I'm along with a C here. I'm good with a B-, but it's just not where it was or where I think it can be. And hopefully it will evolve soon.
All right, so I'm gonna go with a B minus as well. But I'll tell you what, my B minus is like a 79.6. Right, like you got to round it up to get to the B minus. Right, you
Oh
really
man.
getting
So
that
if you were in
grade.
school, it would be just that. Yeah, I got you. If you
Yeah,
were in
the
school,
only
it would be a
reason you're a
number
B
grade.
minus, not a C plus. Trust me, I've been here in college, man. I was getting that B minus or that A minus because
Yep.
I was at a, you know what I mean, 0.1%, just rounding it up.
Grading on a curve, right?
That's right.
Right.
Dude, live and die by the curve, baby. So one of the reason I grade them that way is because I mean, just the rushing attack alone, you got to give him an A, the best in the league. The passing attack, not. So you end up somewhere in the middle. But the problem for me, and the reason that I shade closer to, you know, that low B and not higher, is because of the lack of consistency. It's just inconsistent. Whatever it is, we haven't even seen it for an entire game. So for me, in order to give a solid B or a B plus or even an A, there has to be some more consistency. But the fact that teams at times for quarters, halves, 3/4 can literally shut down our offense because they're inconsistent is a big problem for me, and something I'm going to talk about a little later. So that's our offensive grades.
Well, let me ask you one. Let me ask Tony. I want to ask you a quick question. We talked about the penalties and how they've been drive killers. If the Ravens are able to clean just that up, just clean up the penalties and get back to where we're more used to seeing, do you think that alone could make a big difference on the offense?
Well, that will make a big difference, but also the first down efficiency would also make a big difference if they put themselves, as we've seen now, a little bit better now when it's when it's 2nd and 6 or 2nd and 5 or really that sort of mid-range yardage. The offense seems to play better. The playbook is now expanded. They can do a lot more on 2nd and even 3rd down. If it's 3rd and 2 now, we have a lot more we can do. What, to your point, Glenn, we kill ourselves not only with penalties, but really not getting on that first down, getting 3 or 4 yards. So, again, those are the things that these running backs of this offensive line, as good as they are with run blocking, they're not as great pass blocking. We know that, but certainly we know our strength. We've got to get 3 and 4 yards on that first down to kind of set everything else up. So I think those are the kind of things that we can clean up. To your point, it's the penalties. I think A, and then B, getting putting ourselves in better a position on 2nd and 3rd down where it's short, and now the playbook opens. We can now go deep. Maybe we can take a shot down. So those are the kind of things I think that can help this offense going forward.
All right, so let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to start this one off because I'm noticing here that a trend. I think that I have different grades than two of you, and I think that the two of you have the same grades. So I'm going with an A, just straight up A. I don't think that you can ask for a ton more than what they've done. I think our cornerbacks are we got an all-pro pair of corners. I think our front has performed really well. I think the only thing that keeps me from giving them an A plus, the penalties. You just talked about it, Glenn. If Matt Judon cannot be a bonehead once a game, and if we can avoid some of these just shooting ourselves in the foot type moments, then it's an A plus. I think that the draft picks we've made, even Meta BK has been making plays. Ferguson's been getting better. Tyus Bowser's showing up. Obviously, Patrick Queen is balling out. Malik Harrison is, showing more and more every week. So I can't do anything in good conscience but give our defense an A. That's where I'm at. What about you, Tony?
Oh, all right. All right. Go ahead, Tony.
No, okay. Well, I was going to say this. I mean, certainly, from a defensive perspective, I think certainly we're very good. It's a very good unit. We have Pro Bowlers in a lot of different positions. I think certainly we'll talk more about this later about Patrick Queen and what he's meant to the middle of that lineup. And our front has been very good. Now, at times, I think that the defense, they do give up some big plays here and there. Now, again, you can't be a perfect defense, and you are going to give up some plays here and there, but it seems, again, at inopportune times when we'll have a 3rd and long, but then we'll blitz too many or we'll do something and we saw that with the Chiefs game, where we put them in situations where it's 3rd and long, but we give up the big play. Those are the kind of things I think can be cleaned up slightly that can make us even better. But I still give this team an A overall. They have some very good. Now, I think the pass rush has pretty much cleaned itself up. I think we are putting now pressure on the quarterback. We're not getting the sack numbers, although I believe we're either 3rd or 4th in the league in sacks, believe it or not. But, I think with some of the additions that we have now with Yannick, I think we're going to see those numbers increase. But again, there have been times where the defense has been lapsed. We saw that against the Colts game, in the Colts game in the first half, where they were getting or completing some short up passes, getting first downs, and really going down the field. So yeah, I'm not saying we're going to be this is not the 2000 Ravens, but certainly, I feel that we can clean up some of those plays and the penalties. But yeah, I agree. This is a pretty good unit. It's a really good unit and one of the tops in the league.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think A+ or A- for me, and I was really tempted to bump that up. They've been phenomenal. What I've seen from this year is the amount of different contributors to that sack total. You mentioned much improved from last year where we were. When I look at the stat chart and I see 2.5 sacks from Marlon, 2.5 from Deshaun Elliott, Marcus Peters has a sack, Jimmy Smith has a sack, Chuck Clark has 1.5. You don't know, and I didn't even name anybody in the front seven right there. That was all secondary members. So you don't know who's coming. I love the organized chaos that Wink has been bringing. You mentioned the excellent additions. I mean, you talk about the difference that Calais has made, Patrick Queen has made. I mean, I think that wait and see on what Ngakoue is going to do. I think he's going to be making a lot of difference as well once he gets more acclimated. I mean, the front seven has been off the charts good. I think you mentioned they gave up a few in the first half after Calais went down in the Colts game. I think that was kind of due to Calais unexpectedly.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. But they developed tremendous depth up front. I mean, their linebacker depth, we were kind of worried before the season at inside linebacker. Like, man, we're relying an awful lot on a couple of rookies to get the job done. Now, fast forward to the midway point, we have incredible depth at the middle linebacker spot. Insane depth at the defensive line. When Calais went out, yeah, it stung a little bit. I'm sure they had to move some guys around, but man, you got Brandon Williams, you got Wolf, you got Matabike, you got Ellis Jihad Ward has a sack this year.
Ward, yep.
Ellis had the big pass breakup. I mean, they are all. It just seems like when one guy starts doing something, they all pick it up. Marlon motivating the team to go after the ball. Ripping the ball out. Now we see Peters getting multiple forced fumbles. We saw Calais batting balls down. Now we're seeing other guys batting balls. It just seems like the guys they've brought in, the mentality that they have, it's been phenomenal on defense. It's fun to watch, and I think they're just going to keep getting better and better as long as they stop with the injuries to the secondary, because starting to get a little thin at cornerback this year with Dorsey going down, and then they brought in Tramon Williams. But, it's kind of wait and see with a 37-year-old corner. But yeah, as long as they can keep the top 3 guys in the secondary, well, actually top 5, you include the safeties, I think they'll be okay. But man, they have been incredible defensively, and I think they can continue to get better.
All right, so I want to move on to what I consider to be the most important part of the grading, and that is the coaching staff. I'm really interested here to get everyone's input. I don't want to start this one off. Glenn, you want to start this one off here? Give us your grade on the coaching staff. I don't want to start off because I'm going to start spewing venom and it's going to be bad.
Oh my!
So I don't want to. Well, yeah. I don't want to start that way.
I'll be brief because I went pretty long on defense. So I gave it a B. I think obviously the developments that Roman is going for on the offensive side of the ball haven't gone as planned. But when that's with that said, they're still number 1 in the league in rushing and 8th in points. So still pretty darn good there. And when you look at the defense, they're top 10 in virtually every category. So I don't know how you don't give Wink anything but an A. And yeah, so I mean, I obviously special teams, we've been phenomenal. So if you're gonna grade the coordinator there, he's been excellent. So yeah, I give him a B. I'll let you. Let's let Tony give some positivity before you spew the venom.
Yeah, let me give at least some positive notes here. I will say this. In terms of the coaching, the defense, no issues. Wink has been phenomenal. And, we may lose this guy at some point. So let's just face it. He's done a fantastic job with the mixing of blitzes and with moving around some of the pieces, moving around Calais Campbell on the line, showing different looks each and every time. Wink is a phenomenal defensive guy. And we should be glad that we have this guy. On the offensive side, Greg Roman, I think has done a good job. The only issue I have with Greg is that he has become more unpredictable, but I think we changed some things over the course of the last couple of weeks where we haven't seen when you line up Lamar Jackson in the backfield by himself on 3rd down, it always is going to be a quarterback sneak, and it always or draw play. And I think Greg sort of he's adjusted that. I think he's done a really good job all year, but there's some things that I think that, we don't have to throw on first down all the time just to show that Lamar. And I always thought that maybe, and I don't mean to be long-winded here, but I think that Greg Roman was listening to all of the people saying Lamar Jackson can't throw, and Lamar Jackson needs to throw to, outside of the numbers. So I think he tried early on to make sure Lamar is getting his passing, stats up. And I think he realized that as the season moved on, that this is not how we play football. And I like the adjustments, especially the second half, which I think to me was a phenomenal second half that this team has had all year, where they made those adjustments, and kudos to Roman making those plays. But I think a B is fair overall. Harbs has done a phenomenal job of managing the timeouts and with the challenges and all those type of things too. So yeah, I give them a B. So Jimmy, the floor is yours.
All right. So the best that once again, in good faith, the best that I could give them is a C. I agree with you. I'm a Harbaugh guy, always have been. I think Harbaugh's doing one heck of a job. But I think that as far as the adjustments on offense, the credit is going to the wrong place. I don't think that Greg Roman is the one I think the only reason Greg Roman is making those adjustments is because Harbs is grabbing him by the shirt and saying, look, Greg, this is how we win football games in Baltimore. We run the football and we stop the run. We don't play Lamar empty in the backfield. We don't throw the ball 50 times a game. We don't try and get cute. We run the ball and we stop the run. So run the ball, Greg. Like, I think that it's been John that's been keeping that ship together. Not that he's calling plays. Obviously he's not. But as far as the adjustments that need to be made, I will give John credit for that. But I'll tell you what, the person that is dragging the ticket down based on the time of year that we're in right now, for me, is Greg Roman. Greg Roman. It makes me think of Tyrod when he was a Pro Bowler. Every year after that in Buffalo, he got worse. Colin Kaepernick splash on the scene. Every year after that, he got worse, and then Greg Roman was gone. It is a concern of mine that there's something, he is the common denominator in those themes. Now, Lamar hasn't regressed to where, we're talking about getting rid of Lamar or anything like that, but we could obviously be talking about getting rid of Greg, even though he's coming off a historical season last year. But to me, he's trying to get cute. I don't think it doesn't make any sense. I don't know any scenario in which it makes sense to have Lamar and empty. It just doesn't make sense.
I can't stand that. I don't
get it. I don't get it at all.
Let me say this on the empty thing, because I think I get frustrated sometimes that they give away the illusion of handing the ball to the running back. I'm not a fan of that either. Sorry, I dropped my pen. But what I will say is that I see why they like to get 4 wide, 5 wide, and empty out the backfield, because they want to spread the defense. I think what they're seeing is there's a lot of guys in the box. Well, if you have 5 wide, you have to account for them. So you typically alleviate those guys, and they're not in the box anymore. And they think that'll give, free up space and kind of eliminate some of the pass rush, because you can't, rush, 5, 6 guys when you got to cover, all the guys on the outside. So I understand why they do it to open it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. But it just hasn't worked. So I understand. So I just want to say, I understand why they do it, but it just hasn't seemed to work this season for the Ravens. So I don't want to see them keep going back to it, especially in those high leverage situations, 3rd down mainly, and then 4th down. We saw the 4th down attempt where they tried the draw. But I just want to say, I understand why the decision is to go empty. I understand it.
Yeah, and this is the last thing I'll say is that I thought it was interesting you touched on predictability, Tony, because for me, obviously deception is important, but I compare it to, I do this often. Maybe I shouldn't do cross sports comparisons, but like everyone knows what Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are going to do when they get the ball. They're going to shoot it from 30 feet. But the question is, can you stop it? Not whether or not they're going to do it. I don't care if teams know we're going to run the ball. Show us you can stop it. But don't force ourselves out of a situation in which we're playing their strengths with our weaknesses. Make our strengths overcome their weaknesses, right? Like,
well, Jimmy, right. And that was the point. And we talked about this. That was what, and maybe you're right. Maybe Harms at halftime with this Colts game grabbed Roman and said, I need you to play Ravens football. And if you recall, when we were down, it was 14-10. We, this was the second time down in the red zone. And this is why I felt this coaching staff really woke up, is that with 8 minutes to go, we're down 4. and it's first and goal. What do? We run the ball 3 straight times up the gut with Gus Edwards.
And that's John to me all day.
We haven't done it all year. We normally get cute. We have Lamar kind of roll out. We said, no, we're going to pound the ball. And they scored 3 straight plays. They didn't give up. Even when it was, I believe it was 3rd and inches. They said, no, we're just going to line up Gus again and run the ball. So to your point, I think that's where I'd rather see them say, we're going to run the football and show you that we're going to run and do it. And if you don't do it, that's fine. You just put your strength against theirs. And if you lose, and sometimes you lose and sometimes you don't, but I'd rather give it our all and our best and not try to be cute. And that's where I think this coaching thing kind of gets to you a little bit. And I understand that.
You can tell.
Let me ask you guys something, because I think there is something to the Greg Roman effect. Like, is it just coincidental that it's always that 3rd year, it seems like, for Roman, whether it's in Buffalo, San Fran, or here? Like, why is it that the longer he sticks around, the worse the offense gets? So I don't understand. Do you think it's just that they figure him out?
I think he over tinkers, right? It's just like when you work on a project and you're too close to it for too long, you know what I mean? You don't see all the things that you've done, and until you take a step back, take a couple months off of that project and then come back, you get that vision back. I think he over tinkers. But
hasn't he been forced to step back when he's been fired from San Fran and when he was fired from Buffalo? Wasn't he forced then to step back and go, wow, I'm doing something wrong in my 3rd year? I would think he would be forced to do that. I mean, look, I don't know, something weird about that 3rd year with Greg.
Yeah,
it's hard to change a zebra stripes, man.
Yeah, and here's the part about it. I mean, Greg Roman still is doing a really good job, and we're talking about Greg Roman as if he's just again, I know we're not saying he's bad, but what we're saying is that we see things that we are not used to seeing with this type of offense, and I think we have to put the blame somewhere. Greg Roman still has the #1 rushing attack in the league. He still, if there's a vacant head coaching job out there, he's going to be on that list. So people know who he is. I just say to Greg Roman, stick with what you know, do it, and just do and just use what you have around. You have a good running attack. Just run the ball when it's 2nd and short, 3rd and short. Run the ball up the gut. Use that offensive line. Just do what you do best. That's all I have to say about that. I know.
Let me ask you one more question, Jimmy.
Sure.
I gotta ask you something, because I mean, you talk about going back to why do you think that this year Lamar Jackson isn't getting enough blame from the fans, that maybe we're shifting that blame too much on Greg Roman, that maybe when he started the second half of the Eagles game and we throw a pick on the first play, we kind of banged on Roman for calling a throw. Well, should we maybe give Lamar some more scrutiny and say, well, it wasn't the call that was the problem, it was the throw to the other team that was the problem?
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely some pieces of the blame pie to be dished around here. This is the only thing that I think is fair to blame Lamar for. I wasn't there. I don't know what Lamar did in the offseason, but one thing that I think he might have underestimated is that he's still such a superior athlete to so many players, but teams are going to be drafting to stop Lamar Jackson, not just strategizing every Sunday, but the linebackers they draft will be to stop a guy like that. And now it's not only him, it's Kyler Murray and all these other guys that are moving around so well and taking off with the ball. So I think that the only thing that I think Lamar underestimated a little bit was the fact that he needed to keep getting physically stronger, physically faster. He might have rested on his laurels as far as it's the curse it's the curse of being so gifted, right? Like sometimes you don't realize that, dang, okay, maybe I need to keep pushing a little bit. So that's the only thing because I feel like it's not the same as far as his when he turns the corner and he tries to take off, guys are on his heels now. It's not like it was last year. That game, you remember that Seattle where there was a corner blitzing. He had time to spin around and got away from a DB. This game, he couldn't do it against a defensive end. You know what I mean? So there's a difference there.
But I also believe, and I think that we beat up on Lamar, and I'm not we when I say the fan base, they were really beating him up the last couple of games. And I think we need to remind ourselves he's only 23 years old. He's still growing. He's still learning. And, I think sometimes Lamar, he doesn't admit it, but he reads the pressers. He knows that people want to see him, set that bar even higher than he did last year. And so he wants to do more. And I think that if Lamar just in his mindset just says, look, this is who I am. I can throw. I can make all the throws. Trust me. I don't need to do it because now we can win with doing the things that we're capable of doing as a team. So I think as long as they stay within themselves, that's fine. But I think Lamar and Greg Roman, they read all the newspapers. They know, oh, this Lamar can't throw. He can't throw. And then I'll show you. It's first down. We're gonna go outside the numbers and see. No, just stick with what you are. And I know it's just human nature to really kind of do something that people say you can't do. But Lamar, you are good. You are great. We love you. Just do the things that you can do. Greg Roman, stick with what had worked for us for the last year and a half and just do those things. And I think we can be successful. We're 6-2 now, and we're doing those things. So it's just one. And I'm not trying to go off on the soap. I'm just saying I think that we should be hard on him as well, because Lamar made some bad throws in that Steeler game, horrible throws in that game. So he needs to get better as well. So, yes, I agree.
I just don't want to see any more videos of the cereal boxes. I want to see videos in the weight room.
Yes.
You know what I mean? In the off season, right? Like,
yep.
So, all right, let's get to another fun section. Glenn, I really liked the questions. You really sparked some thought here. I think it's going to be interesting to see what you guys say about that last segment. We'd like to get your guys' thoughts on the coaching staff and Lamar, where the blame is as well. So make sure to chime in. But we're going to give our midseason awards at this point. So we're going to start with our defensive MVPs. This is going to be an interesting one here. Glenn, I'll let you kick it off. Give us your defensive MVP. Tell us why, and then we'll give you ours as well.
All right, certainly, Jimbo. Well, I think there's quite a few guys you could point to as the defensive MVP of this team. So I'm going to give you my MVP, and it is the biggest guy on the team, Mr. Calais Campbell. And I'm going to tell you why. Not only, Jimbo, does he lead the team in sacks with 4, but he also leads the team in pass deflections with 6. If I told you that our defensive tackle / defensive end would lead our team in pass breakups, you'd probably call me crazy. You'd say, no way. It's got to be Peters, Humphrey, Clark, Elliott. No, it's our biggest guy on our squad, Mr. Calais Campbell, with 6 pass breakups. The guy's been phenomenal. I mean, even the play where he got hurt against the Colts, he took on a double team that included Quentin Nelson, who was the all-pro guard last year, tossed him to the side and made the tackle on Jonathan Taylor. If he would have played that game fully, his sack totals, I think, will be higher, and his pass deflections will be higher, because we saw his backup come in and get one later on in the game. I think he's been phenomenal. The energy he brings, the leadership, obviously, we know what he does off the field, being the former man of the year. I just think he's incredible. I love the way he jumps in. He gives guys tips. He's maybe the loudest guy on defense as far as being the most talkative when they're out there at practice. I just love what he's brought to our team, and I think he's my MVP.
All right, Tony, who you got for MVP?
Well, I'm going to go with the obvious one, not the obvious one, because obviously we're not picking the same person. But in my opinion, it's clearly Marlon Humphrey, Fruit Punch. I mean, what he's done this year, 40 tackles. He's got 2.5 sacks as a cornerback, 2.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. He has a pick. What he's created is really what's known as the Fruit Punch. And we call him Fruit Punch, but he's known as the punch guy. And that's what he does. When you catch the ball as a receiver and he comes at you, you have to make sure you secure the ball, because what does he do? He punches the ball out. That is his forte. And it seems to have spread with all the other players as well. We've seen it done. We've seen Chuck Clark do it. We've seen Marlon Peters do it. We've seen all of the guys say, I want to do what he does. And he has been a game changer at the opportune times when he's come in and he's punched the ball out. It's made a difference with the turnover. So Marlon is really, just in my mind right now, has been the best defensive player on the field for the Ravens this year so far. Not taking anything away from Calais. He's great. We know what he can do, but certainly Marlon has been that game changer at this point.
All right. Well, we got 3 different ones. I didn't think that this was going to be the case, but mine is his counterpart, Marcus Peters. Marcus Peters to me is our defensive MVP. A couple reasons. I think that you give MVPs become MVPs in MVP moments. I think when Marlon was out, once again, we're not in the playoffs here, but you think about when Shaq fouls out in the Trailblazer series and Kobe Bryant becomes a man. He was a kid before then, right? But but Marlon being out, Marcus Peters is your guy as far as the secondary goes, and he made two of the four huge plays in that game. If there were four, of course you got the interception, the challenge interception, which ruled in his favor, and then the strip that Chuck Clark took to the house. That was all Marcus Peters. And then on top of that, Marcus has now become the third player in NFL history in 85 games to render 30 takeaways, 30 interceptions, actually, not just takeaways. The only other two to do that, Ed Reed, Deion Sanders, both used to wear the purple. So shout out to
both Hall of Famers.
That's right. And so for me, it was about that. I would have given it to Marlon before this game, but the way that Marcus played in this game and made such impactful plays, he has that. He's not Ed Reed, but he does have that Ed Reed-like ability to make football look like a backyard game of football, and the way that he can play the quarterback and the receiver, and the way that he can come up with those strips. So for me, Marcus Peters. I thought it was interesting that on defense we went three different guys there. So let's move over to the offense.
Must be a pretty good defense if you can make arguments for three.
I think that's
guys.
why they're A. Yeah, that's why it's an A+ type of defense, or at least an A-.
Right? So I think it's funny though, because on the offensive side of the ball, we have the opposite problem. I think that I'm gonna kick this one off here, but I'm gonna assume that we all have the same person in saying that the only person we can make the offensive MVP is Lamar Jackson. Do you guys agree with me on this one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. I think going into this season, if you asked 100 fans who to be the MVP on offense, I think all 100 would have said Lamar Jackson. And of course, he's been good. I mean, look, if you just look at his numbers this year and kind of forget about the insanity that he put on the field last year, you'd say, wow, this guy is incredible. I mean, he's got just under 63% completion percentage for over 1,500 yards, 12 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions. And then when you look at the rushing, he also leads our team in that. He's got 469 rushing yards with 3 touchdowns on the ground, averaging 9.9 per carry, right? Is that one? No, per game, averaging 5.9 per carry. Right. So,
okay.
I mean, he's been phenomenal. Yeah, he's still efficient with the ball, whether it be, he still has 15 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions. So, yeah, I think he's been the obvious choice. And I know Gus, I know it hurts your feelings, Jimmy, to not name Gus the MVP, but I'm sorry. We just can't give it to him.
No, it's funny that you said that, Glenn, because I was thinking, 99 fans would say Lamar Jackson, but I would be the one that would say Gus.
You would say Gus the Bus.
No, I'm not that crazy. I mean, I love Gus, but it's got to be Lamar Jackson. Tony, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the same thing you guys have pretty much, stated. You're looking at, he's got a 95.1 QBR. His completion percentage to me is still good. It's, it's not great, but it's good. But if you take his numbers and you multiply them for the rest of the season, he's going to be phenomenal. And he's just the engine. He's the guy that makes everything else go. Without Lamar Jackson, nothing else would be possible. We wouldn't be able to set up the run. We wouldn't be able to set up the pass. There are a lot of things that we couldn't do without Lamar Jackson. So clearly right now, although his numbers are not as good as comparison to last year. That's, again, we're not looking at last year's numbers, but he's still the man for this offense, and that's going to continue. We're going to need him down the stretch. So we just have to keep our fingers crossed. Everything works out with COVID and all the other things that we've been seeing. He's got to stay there, and he's got to be that guy all the way through the season.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So we got 2 more sections to get through here, and I think these will be fun. Before we get to our projections, our bold projections for the season, we're going to have 1 each. Of course, we'll let you know what those are. But hang on here while we get through these last 2 sections, and we'll get to our bold projections. We are going to give our offensive and defensive rookie of the year thus far. And I think that both of these, well, at least for my 2, both of these are going to stay the same for the end of the season as far as the Ravens go. Defensively, Glenn, who you got?
Yeah, I think this one's a no-brainer. It's got to be Patrick Queen. He started all 8 games at middle linebacker for the Ravens. He's got 52 combined tackles, which leads the team, 38 solo, which also leads the team. He's got 2 sacks. He's got he does not have an interception. He does have a touchdown, 2 fumble recoveries. I mean, the guy has just been impressive. And you consider the fact that he had limited starts at LSU with just the 1 season. And then obviously no preseason and a shortened offseason. The guy's been absolutely phenomenal. He's a blur out there. I love the fact that if he makes a mistake, he does it at 100 miles an hour. He's just been great. I mean, he's been awesome off the field. He's been a guy that they like to throw up from behind the microphone an awful lot. So that they must like him in that setting as well. So yeah, for me, it's Patrick Queen, and it's a landslide.
Yeah, ditto there. Who you got, Tony? Anyone
Yeah,
different?
it's just no, it's the same. It's Patrick Queen, PQ. His most impressive game was the game against the Washington football team. 12 tackles. He just played a phenomenal game. He was all over the ball. Antonio Gibson did who is this guy? Who's 48? He keeps coming at me. And it was just a phenomenal game. And we've seen him now really take over that middle linebacker spot, which is a very tough thing to do here in Baltimore, where you have such legends prior to him. And now to be that guy in the middle, everybody thought he was undersized, but we saw the film at LSU. He was a monster, and he's just carrying that over. Still has a lot to learn. He's gotten beat a few times, with some tight ends, but that's to be expected from a rookie. But the most impressive part, I think, Jimmy, was the fact that he was off all week. He didn't practice at all. And
Crazy.
Stepped right in on Sunday and played a really good game, I thought. So, yeah.
Him, and I don't think Malik practiced at all this week either,
No.
if I'm not mistaken. And they both had great games, which is great to see. I think we talked about this in our recap. Malik had 11 tackles, which was awesome. So yeah, no, I agree with you guys both. Now we'll go to the offensive side of the ball. My offensive rookie of the year thus far, and I think you guys agree with me on this one, it's got to be J.K. Dobbins. I'll say this. I love watching J.K. Dobbins. His balance is incredible. I mean, I don't remember a guy that I've seen with balance like this. And I didn't see, some of the older guys. I didn't watch a ton of Barry, some of these other folks, but man, his balance is just incredible. It's remarkable, his natural balance. The other thing too is I don't think I've ever seen anyone juke and get their top part, their torso so far bent, like almost to a 90-degree angle, and then go the other way. I mean, it's just incredible. This kid can plant and go. I mean, we saw this, him coming out of Ohio State, but it's great to see him coming on as of late. It's nice to see him running between the tackles. So for sure, my guy, J.K. Dobbins, and I'm sure you guys are agreeing with me on that one.
Yeah, I gotta go J.K. as well. I think the fact that he's averaging almost 6 yards a carry and then over 6 yards per reception, it's got to be him. But shout out to Duvernay. I think Duvernay will see much more work in the second half of the season. Obviously, his touchdown came on special teams, but he's been getting work both receiving and rushing the ball with 2 carries for 41 yards on the season. So yeah, look for him to continue or to challenge JK by the end of the season. But I think JK ends up running away with it. Yeah.
Yeah, J.K. had his 100-yard game against the Steelers, and against the number one rush attack or run defense rather in the league. I mean, he had over 100 yards, and again, I think to your point, Glenn, with almost 6 yards a carry. I mean, he's doing phenomenal as a rookie coming in, and really just has stepped in nicely and has done a great job. And you got to give him credit. And I think that you're right about his balance. I think that's what's critical with him, and he's phenomenal. So we hope to see more of him as the season moves on.
Yeah, absolutely. A pundit that I'm pretty close to said that he considers him better than Ezekiel Elliott coming out of Ohio State. So that's big shoes to fill, man. I don't know if that's the case, but I'd love for him to turn into that. That would be incredible. Now we're going to get to what I'm considering the most exciting part of the show, our bold predictions for the second half of the season. We've talked about this half. We've recapped it, but you know what? Now that we've done that, let's put it behind us. Let's move on to the second half of the season, and let's give one bold projection moving forward. Do one of you two want to offer up your projection first? If not, I already got mine, and I'm feeling really good about it.
No, I have one, and I feel really good. So let me jump ahead of you because I'm looking at statistically, if you look analytically, the easiest remaining schedule in the National Football League is the Ravens' remaining schedule. So my bold prediction is this. They don't lose another game, Jimmy.
Woo!
They win the rest of their games. That's right. They beat the Patriots.
He said that's right.
They give a long-awaited ass whipping to the Tennessee Titans when they come to Baltimore. That's right. They go to Pittsburgh on Thanksgiving. They spank the Steelers bare bottom like they should have done in Baltimore when they obliterated them on the stat sheet in every category except for turnovers. They destroy the lost Dallas Cowboys, who just brought a guy from the AFL. to play quarterback for him. And then the last three, the Browns, Jags, Giants, Bengals, we know what they do to them for it. They give us
Even the
spanking
Bengals,
to all four of them.
even the Bengals, which we see what they're doing. Even the Bengals, huh? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they're going to destroy
wow.
them. The Bengals are already going to be half packed for vacation in week 17. Okay?
By the time we play
ready.
them, right? Yeah, that may be true.
Yeah, they're already halfway out the door. So yes, they don't lose another game, and they end this season just the way they ended last, 14-2.
I'm always mad about the fact that we played the Bengals. It seems like the last 5 years, the last game of the season,
ridiculous.
And things just seem not to go right for us for some reason. But anyway, that's fine. I'm going to go a little bit different with an individual player. I'm going to say that we are looking at the makings again of a defensive player of the year. And I believe when Marlon comes back next week, he's going to start that march. He's going to have next week, for example, against the Patriots, he's going to have a couple of forced fumbles. He's going to have 8 or 9 tackles. He's well rested right now. He's fired up. He's going to probably have one pick because Cam Newton, to me, can't throw. So he's going to have one pick, and that's going to start his march to defensive player of the year. He's going to start to get recognized now with this Sunday night game and, of course, the Thanksgiving game where all the pundits will be able to have their eyes on Marlon and say, that's that dude that can win that defensive player of the year, and he's going to win it by season's end.
I like
Bold,
it.
but
no, I
that's the way
like
it.
Defensive player of the year belongs in Baltimore. Right?
It does.
It just only feels right here, right? So, all right. It's interesting because I thought that mine was going to be the most outlandish because I feel like after we lost to the Steelers, every single national outlet just gives the AFC North now to the Steelers. And I think a lot of them have the Steelers ranked number 1 in the power rankings. I'm sorry. They're still undefeated. They struggled against the Cowboys. They should have beat the brakes off the Cowboys, and they struggled. We were talking about this before. It's sad that the Patriots had to fight tooth and nail to beat a Joe Flacco-led New York Jets.
Joe Flacco?
Well, Joe Flacco and no one else.
Watch your tongue. You choose your words carefully, Jimmy.
He's the GOAT of Baltimore.
All I'm saying is that the Pittsburgh Steelers being number 1 in the power rankings should not have even – look, they should have had their second string quarter. It should have been Mason Rudolph time in the fourth quarter. That's what it should have been, but it wasn't.
They haven't lost. How can you put anyone above them when they haven't lost?
No, you're right. But so this is my point, though, is that forget the power rankings. People are just giving them the division. We are going to win on Thanksgiving, and we are going to win this division. So I'm projecting 2 things. 1, obviously, we're going to win the division. 2, I think the Steelers are going to have a second half season lull. They're not trending in the right direction as far as performance goes. Yeah, they're still racking up the wins, but they're not trending in the right direction as far as what they see on the field. So we're taking the AFC North. We're still going to be the Kings of the North. Lamar's reign lives on, and we beat them on Thanksgiving. That's my projection. Book it.
Wow. I don't know, Glenn. That seems to be pretty bold there. I mean, you've already said they're going to not lose a game.
I know.
They got the easiest schedule. I look at the schedule and I go, well, yeah, they could lose to the Steelers, but typically we split with them. I don't know who else they lose to. I mean, Tennessee maybe, but other than that, I don't see any real scares.
Yeah, we're beating Tennessee by 2 touchdowns. You can add that to my prediction.
Oh, man, okay? We got an – I've been waiting for the thing on Titans for too long.
Yeah.
They better put an old school ass whipping on them, Jimbo.
Well, you guys let us know what your projections are. Give us your grades, all the above. Let us know what your thoughts are on the coaching staff. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure to hit the like or the like button as well. Turn on your notifications so every time a new episode comes out, you guys are up to date with it. We're going to be doing our preview for the Steelers game. Look, I'm already thinking about Thanksgiving for the Patriots game. Really excited about that one. Tony, thank you as always for coming on. Yes, if you guys are interested in coming on the show as well, make sure to check out the Patreon, the link in the description below. We love having our guests on. We love having our friends of the show on. So Tony, thank you so much. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate you guys.
Absolutely.